Bechtel is a over 100-year-old company that has made its fortune in engineering, but also, in addition to that, in nuclear power, both weapons and commercial uses of nuclear power. And a matter of fact, we actually owe commercial nuclear power really to the Bechtel Corporation. They've built commercial nuclear power facilities all across the world, including one in India, which created the plutonium that allowed India to become a nuclear power. They are involved in nuclear weapons facilities all across the United States. That helps them drive the nuclear weapons race and are great profiteers from the nuclear weapons race and great advocates of maintaining an intense connection of the U.S. military to nuclear weaponry. But also to advance their own commercial interests, they push nuclear commercial facilities also all around the world. And of course, we're seeing now with Iran and with other countries the question of, when does a commercial nuclear facility end and a military nuclear weapons program begin?
Bechtel, the world's top profiteer in nuclear weapons, continues to make obscene profits from slaughtering human beings. It's not okay. It's not okay for us to trade our humanity for security. It's not okay for Bush to tell us he's working for peace in the Middle East by sending more bombs to Israel. And it's not okay for Bettis to dump their nuclear crap into the groundwater where I live. And it's not okay that everyone around here is afraid to talk openly about the workers and residents who keep dying of cancer.
Nuclear power is no answer for energy. That it is an incredibly destructive form of energy. You have to do something with the waste. Right now, Bechtel manages the Yucca Mountain Storage Facility, which is on traditional Western Shoshone land, which is incredibly hazardous to that community, but also transporting it to that community. The generation of nuclear energy creates waste just in the process of generating it, and it actually creates incredible environmental hazards and hazards, of course, for those who live anywhere near the nuclear facilities. Not to mention, in a time of increased terrorist risk, nuclear facilities are an extreme hazard to anyone who lives anywhere in and around them. But they're just making a buck, and it doesn't matter who's paying for it, right? So one of the stories that I tell in my book is Bechtel's very long history and engagement with Iraq and their very close relationship with Saddam Hussein. They actually managed a petrochemical complex for Saddam Hussein, which generated the precursor to mustard gas, which was of course used then by Saddam Hussein to gas his own people and Iranians. Bechtel worked very aggressively through the person of George Shultz, a former Bechtel president for 9 years, who left Bechtel to become Secretary of State for Ronald Reagan. As Ronald Reagan's Secretary of State, he had direct negotiations with Saddam Hussein and other Iraqi leaders in trying to negotiate a Bechtel oil pipeline that would be built to get oil out of Iraq through the port of Aqaba, Jordan, and of course in their minds then marketed by U.S. oil companies. Bechtel, there's a very famous picture of Donald Rumsfeld shaking hands with Saddam Hussein. That was when Donald Rumsfeld was Ronald Reagan's special envoy to Iraq. One of the things that Rumsfeld was doing in that meeting was pushing for this Bechtel pipeline. But Bechtel participated in a group called the U.S.-Iraq Business Forum, which lobbied aggressively and heavily for increased U.S. economic ties with Saddam Hussein. They were very successful in this endeavor. They got contracts, lots of other U.S. companies got contracts. But then when Saddam Hussein would no longer play ball, they were part of the team that then decided that what was needed was to oust Saddam Hussein. Then 1 month prior to the invasion, Bechtel received a quiet request for proposals, which was a $680 million contract for rebuilding Iraq following the war. That contract mushroomed into a $2.85 billion contract for reconstruction. The invasion happened, Bechtel got the contracts. Then, to the great detriment of all of us, and in particular to the Iraqis, but also to U.S. soldiers in Iraq, Bechtel utterly failed in their performance of this contract. They had contracts to rebuild water, electricity, and sewage systems. and they utterly failed to rebuild these systems. It's now been more than 3.5 years later, and only just now have they just barely gotten those systems back to pre-war level. The Iraqis, after the 1991 invasion of Iraq, rebuilt all of those systems in 3 months' time. These could have done this work. Bechtel needs to be targeted as a company that isn't just a war profiteer, isn't just a company that advances nuclear weapons and nuclear energy, even knowing the incredible environmental harm, social harm, human rights abuses involved in these technologies. But they, for their company's own benefit, advocated, first worked hand in hand with the dictator, then tried to get him removed, then profited immensely off of his removal, and now failed in the thing that they were supposed to do for the people of Iraq. So for all of these and many other reasons, these actions are targeting Bechtel and Bechtel's management of the Bettis facility here in Pittsburgh to essentially play the role that the U.S. government should be playing, which is as the regulator of this company. Because the U.S. government isn't doing it, we're going to do it, and we're going to hold them accountable for their actions and regulate them so they can't keep spreading their abuse around the world.
No, no.